A brand is a verb. Okay, it's not a noun. It's not static. It has to constantly move, you know.
Hi, a very good evening to all and welcome to Design Diaries. My name is Niket Karvir and I'm the co-founder and creative head with Boiling Point Communication. That's my own company. We are based here in Mumbai. And design being my love and my passion, and Design Diaries is an initiative on Thinkly, which is going to be a forum engaging dialogues with industry experts and also simultaneously with entrepreneurs, startups, design students and professionals. The purpose where we can extract insights from them and also answer your questions on branding and design. And to kickstart this particular session, the launch of the Design Diaries, I have a very, very special person on our show. Ideally, I would need maybe 1.5 hours or half an hour to introduce her, to give her introduction, but I'm going to keep it very crisp. An NID alumni, had been creative director with Contract, Enterprise and Trikaya Gray, the agencies. And before she started India's topmost branding and design company, VGC, Vyas Genetic Creative. She has been on the jury for DNAD, the New York festivals and the Cannes festivals. She's also a member of the Indian Design Council and has been instrumental in formulating key design policies for the country. Apart from this, she has also been on the advisory councils of ISDI Parsons School of Design and MIT School of Design, and has been governing council of NID Amravati. And for me, well, she's been my mentor, she's been my guru, and she's been a key person to shaping my life as a designer and as a professional. Her positive influence in my life simply, it cannot be measured. And with this thought, I felt it would be appropriate to convey my gratitude towards her by inviting her on the Design Diaries launch episode. Ladies and gentlemen, I am super thrilled and happy to welcome Preeti Vyas. Welcome, Preeti, and thank you for promptly saying yes to my invitation.
Hi, Niket. How can I say no to you, for God's sake? I mean, for all those who are out there, Niket was one of the bright sparks of the agency. And what I really liked about him was that he was a conceptual thinker. He was, although he graduated as in the visual sort of department of creativity, but he was able to think copy. He was able to think the idea. And that's what I absolutely treasured about him. And it was a pleasure seeing you grow in the agency, to higher and higher sort of levels. So I'm so happy that you're doing well and you're running your own agency. Super stuff.
So absolutely, I think it was destined that I was led to your agency at a particular time in my life, and that's where actually in your space, the space that you had created, that I actually exploded like you said, it's not just a part of visual or design or a particular department. It was holistic growth. And that's what helped me also build my company later on. So, and frankly, Preeti, for me, you're not just a designer. I strongly feel that you have an aura around you of good design. Okay. Now, this is something which I have observed right the moment I stepped for the interview in the office at Andheri. I still remember that day. So whether it's your office space design or your dressing sense, which I never spoke about it, but it's always catches the eye. The way you dress up, the balance of the colors, your accessories, your paintings for that matter, and the overall space that you design. I know you have designed it yourself. So it's not just being a designer, but it's actually being and living design. So that's something which caught my eye quite early, and I try to embody that same principles in my life.
Good. You'll be a good student then.
So, Preeti, let's start this conversation with, we know where you are right now with the VGC, but let's give the audience also a little bit background about yourself, like how you started off from the NID, just a little,
Yeah.
going
So
back.
a quick background about my journey. So I come from a business family, and although it was a business family, my mother came from a family which was highly academic, and it was very important that her kids, there were three of us, that they become engineers and doctors. And so I did not comply with those requirements in the family. So it was very difficult. The only thing that I was good at was being creative. you know. And what I was not good at was in gaining grades in school. So it was a tough battle. And to break the mold and to actually go out into the creative zone. In those days, there was only JJ School of Art that we had heard of. And JJ School of Art promptly rejected me, saying I was not good enough, you know. And then I'd just heard about the National Institute of Design, and I applied and I got in. And I think the rest was history. And I'm so glad I went there because it gave me an understanding that creativity is actually something which helps the world. Design is something which is always building a positive narrative. It always helps find a solution. And in the end, it betters the lives of people, it betters the lives of the planet, and of course for businesses as well, you know. So NID gave me an exposure, which was a worldview. You know, so we were exposed to the thinkers of the world. We were exposed to scientists, musicians, mathematicians, you know, and of course, I mean, great filmmakers, and of course, the craft and art of design. And of course, it was a design institution, so it had many, many different faculties of design, product design, textile design, which in itself created a lot of exposure. So I think, it blew my mind, you know, to be part of such a large creative universe. But it was so big that it was very difficult to actually put all that universe onto a piece of paper with a pen. So it was overwhelming. And when I graduated from NID, I was very fortunate to land myself in a small agency with a powerhouse and creative director, Mr. Mohammed Khan.
Wow.
And so, you know, I mean, what luck, right? And so I learned my global exposure, the ability to think big, articulation, all of that from NID. But what I learned from Mohammed Khan was the big idea, you know, understanding copy, understanding, and he taught me composition and layout and art direction, you know, actually, although he was a copywriter himself and a mind-blowing copywriter. The nation hasn't produced maybe just two or three like him thus far, you know. So I was so fortunate. It was a small agency, and I actually sat in one room with him, you know, for 4 years. So, I mean, what more can I ask for as mentors go? And I think all of us know that an educational institution only takes you thus far. And you must go out and graduate. When you graduate, you must try to look for a good person you can mentor with, you know. And don't look at the amount of money you get. I used to get 500 rupees as a stipend. But what I got was a fantastic education, you know. So you know, like Niket, you reach out on Guru Purnima, I reach out to him on Guru Purnima.
I think
So
that's the cycle.
that's the cycle, isn't it? So
Absolutely.
that's really the journey of coming into the professional world, you know, cutting my teeth on actual projects with a fabulous mentor. So my benchmarks were right. And I think, you know, in this business, it's very important to be benchmarked right, because a lot of kids come out very confused. And sometimes they go and get the job in a place which only confuses them more, you know. So that is an important thing for people to remember. And thereafter, you know, I started on my own. I traveled abroad, and things like that happened. And I think what I also want to talk about is that the tremendous amount of obstacles that can come your way. So, for example, when I started my company, the day I was going to hire the first employee, the entire office burned down. You know, so I had absolutely nothing. I was on the streets. But you have to really fight your way back, you know, and that's the way life is going to be for everyone. So I think that you need dollops of talent, dollops of great inputs from mentors, and you need dollops of resilience from within, you know, because you have to be strong, you know, when you do this. So you know, and thereafter slowly the agency grew, and of course there were lots of cycles. Like I'm sure you would have had those as well, right? I mean, we had COVID most recently, but prior to that, you had Lehman Brothers, you know. So you have these great expansion moments, and then suddenly something happens, great disruption, and then you collapse. So the thing was, it was very important to do two things. One is that you need to retain your reputation in the market through talent. Don't compromise on your talent. Don't compromise on the quality of the work that you are doing. Don't compromise on your own self-respect. It's very, very important. And the other thing is, apart from the fact that you need to build a lot of resilience, is the ability to say no to certain things. You walk away from certain things. It's fine. And I think that these qualities really, really helped in making sure that you are where you are. Uh, and of course your people. I mean, I have just been in mentor mode, indicate. So don't think I don't do that now. I do that even now. But what I do is I sense talent, and I also, like in your case, I encourage talent. And in fact, the Bangalore office we started was actually started by a designer. And she said that I'm moving to Bangalore, but I don't want to leave the company. Can I start the Bangalore office? And I said sure, and she did a great job. So I give a lot of opportunities to people who show the initiative, show the spark. So I always believe in a flat structure as far as talent is concerned. So anyway, that's a kind of a brief history of Preeti Vyas for you. So,
Great, amazing. And I think one particular point which you discussed, especially from the perspective of designers who want to start on their own, which it looks very pretty, that we are a good designer, but when it comes to starting your own business and sustaining it over a period of time, like we've as a business owner, we have seen the ups and the downs. But that point that you made, that the resilience, the strength, that needs to be embodied, and that you also need to come to terms with that and grow with that. I think that's a very amazing point that you touched upon. So Preeti, let's start with the basic fundamental question. As per you, what is branding, and how branding and design are integrated?
So to me, there's no differentiator. First of all, what is a brand? I would say your logo is not your brand. Okay? It's how you behave with your customers, with your internal stakeholders, your employees, with your consumers, and how consistent you are in that behavior. Now, when I say behavior, every aspect of your business is interacting with some aspect of the world. You have to ensure that if these are, first of all, what you should be clear about what you want to stand for as a brand. Okay, it's very, very important. For example, when we take on a project, the first thing we do is understand what the business is about. What are the business aims? Okay, what is it that the promoter, the CEO, where is it that they want to take that business to? Not where the brand is going, but where the business is going. So sometimes I feel that we actually work like management consultants, because we need to understand that. We also do research. They say they stand for something. We check it out. That do people actually believe in what they're saying? Do they endorse the same thing, or are they actually views which are very different? We also check with employees, and see what they feel about their own company and where they want to head into. So we take all of this data, okay, and they say this is really who you say you are. This is not really what you want to become to your customers, your consumers. This is where your business has to go. And in which case, within these parameters, what should you be standing for? Let's just articulate it for you that this is really what your brand archetype is. This is what your brand philosophy is. And if this is what your brand archetype is, this is what the visual representation of your brand should be. So that's really how we approach the design aspect. But it's, as I said, it's a lot of other things as well. The design has to exist in a brand universe. And the brand universe is what I said. What is your personality? What is the tone of voice? What is it that you want to be known for? If the three things that you should be known for, what should they be? In today's day and age, every brand needs to also be associated with, let's say, sustainability and those things. So we also guide them as to that these are the parameters that they should seriously consider. And once that is done, then what we do is that we create a communication universe. That I stand for this is my brand, and this is how I will communicate who I am to my target audiences. And that's really how we create a behavior universe, and which is how the graphics will behave, the visuals will behave, how the communication will behave. What should be the tone of voice in terms of, for example, if there's a company which is a listed company, they have to have an annual report. You're talking to an audience which is different from a consumer. You're talking to investors. How should the same brand philosophy continue there? And when you're talking to a Gen Z, when you're talking to different kind of audiences, how will this brand philosophy translate to
Mm.
this? So we actually create a kind of a brand multiverse, so to speak, for them. And that makes it very easy for them to understand what their character should be. So this, according to us, brand design communication is one homogeneous whole.
Mm.
So you start from a research strategy to a manifestation of what you should be as a person, as a,
Absolutely.
as a brand person.
And true. And having worked with VGC and under your guidance, I also observed that you used to do a lot of research work. Before you actually get into the drawing board, there is a lot of thinking, there is a lot of research that you need to go through. And that, was lucky enough to have those teachings guide me today also. Now, having created some of the well-known brands which India has seen, so whether it's Aditya Birla Group corporate identity, whether it's the Ashok Leyland corporate identity or the PM Writer Group or the DNA newspaper logo, uh, which is that one brand design that's like really close to you, and why?
This is a very hard question. Okay.
Come on, that
So, no, but okay. So, just from a longevity perspective, I would say Aditya Birla because it's pretty much actually it's older than the company because actually we were interacting with the group even before VGC was born.
okay.
But I can say that it's a client that we got from day one, and we still do work for them. Okay, so and when we say we do the branding at the corporate level, we have right from the inception. So when it didn't have a logo, okay, so how we actually gave birth to a brand, and it's a case study unto itself, because it started at a time when businesses like them, which were mostly in commodities, were B2B businesses, didn't think of branding, but they did. And not only that, but how they stuck to the journey. So we've actually seen three branding changes that have happened. We also do all their corporate communications with it. So all of the films that you see and all of that, that is
Uh,
also
I'll
done by us.
actually going to touch
Yeah.
upon that is how your relation with the client, especially when it traveled right from creating the identity, the brand architecture for a large group like that, uh, and then also going into internal communication and then into the external communication also. And you've done some fabulous films which have won New York Festival Awards, and some really amazing work has been gone. I was a part of a couple of films during my time, so I know the kind of value addition that you've done for Aditya Birla Group. And Preeti, that's about your brand. Now tell me one brand design not done by you, by any other designer, any other design company which you loved.
I would say that uh, the brand work that has happened by ANC Alok Nanda for Lodha. I think that
Yeah,
I like a lot. Of course, Alok was my colleague in Chakara, and so and a friend. Of course, so many brands out there. But as it just quickly came to my mind, so I'm saying that.
yeah,
I like the fact that he was able to create through the work they do for Lodha a completely differentiated messaging, which has now become hygiene, which is the lifestyle orientation, which everybody now wants. But he actually helped maneuver. So when you do great work, I always believe that you have to have a good client, a great client, because somebody has to buy your work, somebody
absolutely.
has to buy your thinking. So that's why it's very important that you work with people who understand you. It's not possible to work with everybody in this way. Nobody else would have worked what he said. So I feel that what he has done with brand Lodha, and which is sustained throughout and maintained its brand value thus far. I would say that that's something that I do admire. Just completely off the cuff, that's what I thought of.
I think Alok also is a writer, right? By
Alok is a copywriter, but Alok himself is has a very visual orientation also. He does some wonderful. Actually, I met. I was designing the Taj magazine, and I wanted to do some illustrations, and I saw an ad in the papers, and I loved the illustration. And I found out which agency it was and found out his name. And that's how I got to know him. He did do the illustrations for me. And I eventually became also part of Trikaya Grey, where he was. So it sort of worked out like that.
So, Preeti, now let's also touch upon today's marketing age. When we used to work, art direction, I think, was there was a lot of visibility. There was a lot of scope of doing a lot of beautiful art direction. The layouts that we did, the typography or illustration stuff. Now this is my point of view is when since digital age has come up and the print media has taken a backstage in terms from the business perspective also from the clients. Uh, how have you seen design and art direction? Where is it present? What do you see in the future? The scope of it coming back?
So, I mean, it's all digital first for sure. I think that if you're looking at, doing work, which is, there is print, I'm not saying print is completely invalid, but if you're talking to certain kind of a mindset, certain, target audience pool, you can't, anyway, in this day and age, you can't ignore digital. But in certain cases, you actually have to think digital first. In most cases these days, if you're talking about out of home, then that's possible. You know, but otherwise, digital, when we say it's such a vast universe of digital as well.
Yes.
I mean, today, what I'm saying on WhatsApp, I mean, a lot of my clients just operate on WhatsApp. They give me approvals on WhatsApp. They check the creative work on WhatsApp, So I'm saying that and that doesn't change one thing, which is that you still need to think the big idea. You still need to think great design, great execution. But what does change, because of the medium dictates your creativity, the craft, and also sometimes the thinking itself. So if you're thinking digital first, for me now, digital first is either AI, AR. It's also got to do with animation, motion graphics. But what I find is that kids who graduate as UI UX, although they have very basic knowledge of the technology, what they don't have is the proper grounding in the design values, graphic values. They don't understand typography. They don't understand colors. They don't understand layouts, compositions. So it's like by trying to skip that, they've actually what these institutions do is that they erode the value these kids will eventually come out and offer. So we end up doing a lot of teaching to instill that.
Preeti, especially from the perspective of startups or entrepreneurs who have just started their companies and brands, and what is the kind of advice that you give, especially on the digital front, that they can, as business owners, which they can follow in terms of okay, to build a brand on a digital platform. These are the kind of advices, or these are the kind of tips that I can actually adhere to.
Look, I mean, today if I were to throw a stone, it's going to hit a digital design agency somewhere. Okay, so I mean, wherever you look, there are these agencies are cropping up. So if in this kind of a crowded market, if you want to actually embark on your own enterprise, be very clear of what you want to be and what you don't want to. Okay. Because if you're going to play the price game, because if the only differentiator is that you're going to be cheaper than somebody else, that's not going to carry you any, further than where I can throw you Niket, which I can't throw you at all. So what I'm saying is that, you really need to know how you will differentiate from the others and in the long run. And I'll tell you, it's the quality aspect. And this is something which I don't see too much, as I mentioned, is that whilst we saw in the earlier years of advertising and, in that zone, there were big ideas, there was sort of big shifts that happened in terms of the way people were thinking. I don't see that in the digital world, at least not in India. Okay. So I think that the ideation process, the craft process, these all need to be sharpened by everybody who's in this business, but especially those who want to starting out. You better do that very quickly.
So I think irrespective of the medium, at the core, those values need to be still there. They need to be intact.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, and it also comes to a point, like I have myself thought, especially interacting with clients, that there is one particular piece in the jigsaw puzzle, which is like a brand custodian, which is the missing piece over there. So the agencies,
Yeah.
typically agencies hire, like you said, smaller digital marketing companies or social media companies without any background on design, on brand, how to build a brand, and they
But
start.
how will they know? They don't know it themselves.
Absolutely.
They don't know it themselves. So what they're doing is they're only looking at what is the bottom line, what's the price? Am I getting it cheaper than the next person? So
Absolutely.
if you're going to treat this as the cheapest kid on the block kind of game, then the kind of work that's coming out is what you get, which is, I mean, I don't notice most of the ads which come out, which I just, on the digital zone, nothing makes an impression.
I don't think, the beauty of, like, that's what I was mentioning, that the kind of craft that we used to do earlier in terms of the design on the print and the typography, that's somehow missing. I mean, the latest I would remember is the Curious campaign, which is right now on, which is a beautiful campaign on typography, but then again, it's more industry specific. So that's why, the creative mindset would have that kind of a freedom to do that.
Yes, right. Yeah. So
And
I think that this is soon going to transition out, but I would say that the designers need to make the attempt to proactively teach themselves and present portfolios which are differentiated because the client may not want it, but when you show your portfolio, show something which is truly going to be rubbing shoulders with the best in the world, so inspire the client.
Acha, Preeti, I'm now looking at the chat because I'm bombarded with a lot of questions. So I'm just going to start popping up all these questions which have come over here. Uh,
Okay.
so let's have. So this is Lavanya Singh, and she wants to know what factors should business consider when defining their brand values and mission.
Hi, Lavanya. What factors should you consider for mission and
For their brand
values of vision?
values and mission.
Okay, so Lavanya, as I said, that when you're creating a brand compass for your client, you need to first understand what the client stands for, where the client wants to steer the business, what are the perceptions internally, what are the perceptions externally. Okay, and that's really when you start getting an idea of what the client's own ambitions are. Now, one thing you need to remember is that you don't want to do anything which is different from what the actual the client's philosophy is, because the DNA must remain consistent. Don't try to change the DNA of the client. Never works. Okay. So within an understanding of what the client is all about, you then have to guide them into, okay, fine, what is the big thing that you're standing for? What is your vision? Because vision is different from a mission. A vision is something, if you were an individual, my vision is that I want to do X, Y, whether in the next 10 years, let's say that's my vision. Mission is really how to, what will I do to get me over there? Okay. So if you know what the goalpost is, which is where the client wants to go, then it becomes easier for you to articulate the vision. And then it becomes even easier to actually outline the steps that you will have to walk to reach the vision. So that becomes your mission. So is that clear?
Yeah, I think so. I hope Lavanya, Preeti has duly answered your question. There's another question by Meera Chauhan. Uh, are there common misconceptions about branding that you have encountered in your experience? Are there?
Yeah, I think, Meera, the common branding misconception is that a brand is a logo. And I would say that a brand is not a logo. Okay, think of lots of companies which have a logo which don't live up to it. Nobody knows about it. And a lot of times, if this happened to a company in Delhi where the brand was changed, but the internal communication was not done, so people didn't know what it even stood for. So if you're just going to you're just going to assign the responsibility to a logo design, all it's going to do is sit on the little real estate on a visiting card or be an email signature. Okay. But you need to bring the brand alive. And so that's the big mistake. So when you're talking to clients, you need to tell them that you want to do branding, but your logo will not do the job. You will have to address all of these things, which is essentially interfaces, behavior of how you will be, and be consistent. You can't just today talk about who you are and the next 3 years forget about it. Like I mentioned about Aditya Birla Group, it was a consistent effort to build a brand. Today it's a super brand, but it didn't happen overnight.
Absolutely. There's a very interesting question. How do you navigate the balance between consistency and innovation in brand management?
So now this is really something which you need several people to work as a team. First of all, you have to encourage your clients to treat you as a partner and not as a vendor. Okay, that's the one thing that I made sure that we would never be seen as. Okay, you also have to take your client along and be part of this mission vision at every level. So when you're talking about brand management, this is like some for certain kind of clients, it will be a daily thing. If you're an FMCG brand, every day you're putting out something, you're managing your brand and steering it in a certain way. So you need to be a brand custodianship, but you need to encourage. And a lot of the work we do is sometimes just encouraging our clients to become the brand custodian that they should be. Not just to say, yeah, acha nahi lagta hai, or can you push this on the left-hand side, or push this on the right-hand side, or make the logo bigger. Okay. I think you have to start mentoring your own client if you want to look for a long-term relationship. And they should see the benefit of what you've done. When the client sees results from what you've done, when they either it's a customer, consumer, or even people around who start noticing it, that's when they feel that, yes, I think I am doing something, I'm managing a brand rather than just sort of running a job list with my agency.
I think that's a
And managing a brand for you. I mean, if you're a designer, you understand that don't think of it as deadlines to meet. You must retain a long-term vision in what you're doing as well, whilst meeting a deadline.
Yeah, I think that's quite a valid point, Preeti, especially from a business perspective, is seeing client as a partner and the client seeing the agency as a partner rather than a vendor. I think
Yes.
if that wall breaks, I think a lot can be accomplished together to building a brand.
That's right. Absolutely.
Again, a very interesting question by Vivek Saxena. When we speak about design-led brands like Apple, Burberry, BMW, Mercedes, do you think there's any Indian brand that comes close, and what stops us from thinking design first?
I think that, I would say, we're a country of traders. Okay. And the mindset follows us everywhere. Okay. To get people to switch from being traders, which we actually get something from somewhere and then sell it to somebody else, which is that's our history, right? To actually be creators first is a journey which I think is still not complete for this country. I hope that with this new sort of surge in our economy, and there's a new awareness, there's a new aggression in companies where they want to be seen as not just people talking to the Indian clientele, but Indian consumers, but also to international markets. Not that it's not happening, but you try to convince them to, actually treat their brands in a way which international brands are using abroad is still a difficult task. Which is not to say that you shouldn't do it, because I think it's a matter of time. But that unfortunately is the attitude. So you find clients now and then who actually say that, no, this is what I want to do. You find a lot of startups who will do that as well, but they don't have enough muscle to actually execute that, at least not immediately. So that's my observation.
And Preeti, do you also think, pertaining to the same question, is the emotional connect which this brand, the international brand that is mentioned about, have connected with the consumers, the emotional connect?
So when you take Apple, okay, in fact, I would say it's a great design thinking case study. Okay, so you have somebody at the helm of a company which is not thinking competition, which is thinking consumer. Okay, and is actually working backwards from what the consumer's life is like. He's not thinking about, okay, competition X is doing this, so let me make it a little incrementally better. No, he's actually saying, forget that. So this is the 5-step process of design thinking. This is the empathy process. I think he was a natural sort of design thinker. So he actually went into that, and he first fixed his product. He actually said, this is what the product should be, because this is really what people need. They may not have articulated it themselves, this is what they need, but this is really what they should be doing. And then he worked backwards from that And he created the branding and the brand packaging. I mean, end of the day, I mean, look at the kind of products we see coming out from there. But so it started with design thinking, understanding the consumer, their ambitions, their aspirations, their needs, and the desire to be storytellers. Each one of us wanted to be that, and he actually recognized that, that deep ambition we all have. And I think that's really where a whole circle, a whole revolution started. And I would say it started with Apple, but it continues, right? What we see around us, it continues. So I think that is the reason why. If we have people like that, who actually can think like that with the kind of organizational muscle and the power to I'm going to do it no matter what, right? He was sacked himself from his own company. Okay, so he took that kind of a risk to do that. So that's what you need. So I think we are a few steps away, but maybe not too far.
I know. I think it's about discovering that why rather than the what and the how.
Exactly. So that's what. That's the big vision, right? And the why. If a lot of people just get stuck in a kaise karega, or it'll take me so long, it's difficult, etc.
Great. Another question from Mohit. Can you share some examples of brands that have successfully rebranded themselves over the time?
Successfully rebranded themselves. I mean, I think loads of companies have. So, I think, as I said, branding is okay. This is what I often say is that a brand is a verb. Okay. It's not a noun. It's not static. It has to constantly move, And I think that the brands which are the most successful are refreshing frequent, Now, I don't mean refreshing for the sake of refreshing, but in terms of fine tuning, in terms of creating more opportunities to storytell. I think that's okay. I mean, the one that comes immediately to mind is Coke. Okay, and I don't mean just the logo as a refresher or a rebranding, or even Pepsi for that matter. But actually, what some of these brands do is they recognize the shifts in people's mindsets, shifts in how they want to be spoken to. Generations change. They want to consume differently. They want to entertain themselves differently. And I think therein lies the importance of actually constantly refreshing your brand through communication, through the graphic brand guidelines, through the way they interact, the kind of experiences they create. So that's really, what I would say is important.
Great. Another question from a very good friend of mine. He's online, Vipul Bondal. He's a PR. He has his own PR company. So he's asking, does a brand need to be the same or different to different target audiences, especially since audiences are vastly different across mediums?
So the answer is yes and no. Okay. So at the core, at its basic base philosophy, it should never change. But how I engage with a 16-year-old can't be the same as how I engage with a 60-year-old, right? So obviously it has to be relevant to both. For example, if I'm talking about an insurance brand or an automobile brand, I mean, it really talks to a wide audience. Now, not every medium appeals to everybody. So in a certain medium, I will create brand stories which are more relevant to a certain audience. But I will not lose my core identity, my core personality, my core, sort of values. That needs to always be there. And that's a challenge for any creative person. What to continue and what to change for whom. So yes, you should definitely take on board different narratives, but at the same time, not change at the core level at all.
Great. We have one more question from Anand Sharma, and he's asking how to leverage digital platforms and social media to enhance brand visibility and engagement.
How to
leverage digital platforms and social media to enhance brand visibility and engagement.
Well, I think again, you will have as much visibility as anybody else on social media, right? So again, why will somebody consider stopping by your communication and not by somebody else? Is really the story you tell, is really the hook that you have. What is it? You need to understand also the science of observations and the science of conversion, the sense that it's basically a fraction of a second that you have to get somebody's attention. Not only get somebody's attention, but also to gain their interest. So you need to work backwards from that and craft your creativity in a way that it talks to the person, involves the person, not talks down to them, not talks at them. Because a lot of the communication that goes out is either documentary, hey, I do this, or you should do this. It can't be prescriptive and it can't be just information. Then you've lost the game. So you need to really use every creative muscle in your toolkit to actually figure that out. That's what we used to do even for print ads, Niket. That you literally have 2 seconds before somebody is going to turn the page. It's the same philosophy. That's what's going to make you effective or not. Understanding clearly your audience, that is very crucial, because then you can speak that language and you know what that person's interested in, that mindset, what are they interested in, then you lead from that. So that is really what I would say is going to get you more eyeballs.
Thanks, Preeti. I hope Anand, Preeti has answered your question. And Preeti, while browsing through the VGC website, I came through this very interesting word tucked right at the bottom left side of your website, which was designomics. I want this is all about. What is the vision for it?
Okay, so when I was part of the India Design Council, we, as a delegation, went to Japan, went to Tokyo, and we studied a lot of design. Actually, there's a good design mark is something which Japan had launched, and we wanted to tie up with the Japanese government and launch a good design mark for India, which eventually we did. But when I was there, what I realized was that, after Hiroshima, the economy of Japan had completely, sort of was demolished. And the government decided, which is so enlightened of the Japanese, and Japanese are truly from another planet, they decided that the only way we can actually come out of the kind of economic hole we've fallen into is by being competitive. And by that, they meant that we need to have better products. And by better products, which can compete internationally, which means that we have to have designers who will help us design better products. So the Good Design Award or Good Design Mark was instituted by the Japanese government in the 1950s, 1954 or 1956. Look at the vision of that. So what I got out of that was that creativity helps economies of countries, okay, economies of companies. So designomics is really about design and economics coming together. So when I came back, I said, whilst the government will do what it wants to do, I can't wait. I'm impatient. I want to do something as well. So I started this thought leadership platform called Designomics. What I also did was that I did a program for Bloomberg where I interviewed business heads, like Kumar Mangalam Birla, Anand Mahindra, why they use design, and different Kishore Biani, and the head of Britannia, why are they using design? They are not designers. Why? Because they see value in design in helping grow their bottom line, in helping grow their businesses. So this was to grow awareness of the power of design, is what I did for. That's how I launched Designomics. I also created a platform where we had conferences, where we actually invited and gave awards to businesses who had used design. For example, Mahindra and Mahindra, they're very serious about design. So we actually, and Scorpio, for example, is a great example of good design.
Yes, absolutely.
So that's what we did. So that's what Designomics is all about, and also Academy. I feel that's another an educational institution which we want to launch, which is to have people come in and work with design houses. Because the best teachers are people like you and I, right? When kids come to us, they come as essentially just raw material. When they come to us, is really when we teach them. So why not actually have kids come to us, the practitioners, because we don't have the time to go to campuses and teach. So they can actually come on board, work on live projects, work with real mentors at every level, senior most to the junior most, but they will gain much more than they would if they were to spend that much time in a typical institution. That being the insight. So Designomics is many things, but that's the vision behind design.
Amazing. Look forward to hearing and seeing
Absolutely.
some good
Watch
stuff.
this space.
Yes. And just one more question, especially from the design people who are students who are entering into the design and they are thinking of getting into being a designer. One is that, and the other is from startup perspective. What is the kind of advice especially for the students, what kind of advice you would give, and from the startup, the entrepreneurs when they approach, especially from the budgeting perspective, especially from selecting the agency perspective, what should they keep in mind?
So if you're a graduating student, I would say my advice is, honestly, the urge to do freelancing is great, but I would resist. I would first look for a good and a small design company where the more or less a flat structure where you can learn from a mentor. Because what you're doing is that you're really learning from people who are out there who are doing great work. And spend some time in researching the company, spend some time in researching the kind of work they do, kind of people there are, follow them on Instagram or wherever, and decide then. Don't look at money because money will come, but the time you will spend with them, and you need to spend time. I mean, don't be a jumper. Every year you want to go to a new company. Don't do that. That's very, very important. Stick around for a while because that's the only way you will learn. Otherwise, you'll just make a little bit more money from the previous job, but that's all that you will get. So anyway, so that is my advice to people, kids who are starting out. If they still want to start out, then I would say, make sure that, you're very clear about what you stand for, and please understand how to run a business, because you can really completely lose it, your company, if you don't have that understanding of how to run a business, at least some basics. So teach yourself. I'm sure there's enough around to actually teach you a little bit. So do that. But in my experience, kids really need to first go and work with practitioners. The other thing is about people who are, the startup zone, and who they're very, what often happens with them, we've noticed, is that, oh, we have to immediately start, and so kuch bhi, anything will do. So, whilst that's a temptation, I would say that don't cut corners. Because what's going to happen is that you will get a cheap job done somewhere, but eventually you take a U-turn to redo it because it was not done properly. It was not done as a scalable idea. It was not done as something that would encompass growth and things like that. I mean, these are very important things for them to think about. So that means that, okay, well, I don't have the money. How can I? So I think a lot of companies, including us, would be happy to take on startups. We can actually, work with them in certain ways. There are different arrangements to work out with them to help them, So I would say that I would encourage them to actually do that. If they have investors on board, it's easier to convince investors because investors really understand the value of branding, So then they should consult an investor and then kind of work with them to create different opportunities. Does that make sense? Does that help you?
Yes. In fact, it reminds me of this beautiful quote. It's a part of my email signature. If you think good design is expensive, look at the cost of a bad design.
Exactly. Well said.
by the CEO of Jaguar. So
yeah,
it immediately strikes an insight, So
yeah.
you keep that as an email signature when sending the mail to clients.
That's a great one.
Preeti, I'll just end with I have a rapid fire question.
Okay.
In seconds, just the last round. So what's your favorite brand and why?
Aditya Birla Group. Why? Because I gave birth to it and I believe in it strongly.
If you could rebrand any company, which one would it be and why?
If I Tata's. Why?
Okay.
Because I think that what they've got for a brand doesn't do justice for the kind of brand heft it has.
What's the most underrated aspect about branding?
The fact that the branding is a journey and it's not a one-stop destination.
Okay. Which brand do you think has the most memorable jingle or the sound logo?
Honestly, I can't remember. Sorry, I can't remember.
Okay, we'll go to the next. How do you know when a brand's visual identity needs a refresh?
Again, I have a physical reaction to bad design. So when I see bad design, I really, something cringes within me. That's when I know that these people need.
And what's the most rewarding part of being a branding expert for you?
It's the creativity, So I can only sum up two things about me. If I'm living for two things, what is it? Definitely I'm a creative soul, so that's definitely creativity for sure.
And 3 values that you follow in your life, your personal values.
Personal values: be true to yourself, because you really can't. you can't fool yourself. So you have to, because you have to live with yourself, right? So
Absolutely.
you have to really be true to yourself. The other value is that don't compromise on what you stand for. The work that you do, it needs to, if it is not matching the values you have, the values you have yourself created, walk back out of it, rework on it. Have the courage to rework and go back to the drawing board. Sometimes I've actually done that because I just don't believe I can't live with myself. And the third value I would say is that for God's sakes, don't stop learning.
Absolutely.
You know,
No,
if I had stopped learning, I'd have been dead long time ago. So, to have
absolutely.
it's, I think fearlessness. You need to really be fearless to own your ignorance, to keep learning.
By the way, Preeti, I just recently learned crayon sketching. So,
That's fantastic.
charcoal, sorry, charcoal sketching.
Super. You have to teach me.
Absolutely. Oh my God. So, uh, coming to the end, so I think we've answered most of the questions, and I hope all the wonderful members who have joined us on the chat, I hope your questions have been answered by Preeti, and I hope you have got some very good insights into branding and design. And this being the very first episode of Design Diaries, thank you so much, Preeti, for being over here and taking out your time. I know how precious the time is for you, and I really thank you for that from the bottom of my heart. And I hope that we have another episode wherein we can more further go in detail about branding and designing. This being the very first episode, so thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Niket, I would never say no to you. I was in a board meeting and I said, I'm sorry, I have to jump out because I have to go to this podcast. So it was really very important for me. And it's really been quite an honor to be your first guest. I really wish you all the best. And of course, I'm happy to be part of any conversation that, you may want to have on all aspects. Yeah,
And we'll meet over a cup of coffee sometime.
absolutely. Yeah, soon.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks so much. Bye, everyone.